Reveal your skin's inner glow with Advanced Genifique from Lancome. Inspired by microbiome science, enriched with 7 pre- and probiotic-derived extracts and hyaluronic acid, apply morning and night for stronger, healthier, younger-looking skin. Advanced Genifique, Lancome's #1 serum. Get 10% off your first online purchase at lancome.co.uk.
I'm your host, Natalie Drenovac, and welcome to The Modern Women, a show that seeks to share the stories and experiences of women that may be out of our line of sight. As some of you may know, I'm rather fascinated with sex, desire, sexual identity, and exploration. I love talking about it, and always feel that it's a topic that, despite everyone partaking in the act, most feel a bit uncomfortable talking about it. I brought Emma Sayle on today to talk all things sex, exploration, kink, relationships, non-monogamy, shame, and secrecy. Because Emma is the founder of Killing Kittens, an international network of women and men who are brought together by a communal desire to be more sexually liberated and explorative. Further connected through events hosted from London to New York, Venice to Sydney, and over the past 5 years through Killing Kittens' expanding digital platforms. Too often, I think women, both single and in relationships, are not comfortable with their sexual desires, wants, needs, and tastes. And I thoroughly enjoy discussing some of these issues with Emma, and how being empowered through sex can make us all feel that much happier. Now, a disclaimer, this conversation truly talks all things sex. It's honest, raw, and I think the word sex is said over 100 times. Now, if this makes you uncomfortable, I thoroughly recommend pushing through and listening to today's chats. And I certainly learned a whole bunch, and I had my views on relationship constructs challenged. In a good way, of course. If you love this episode or any other episodes of the podcast, make sure you're subscribed wherever you enjoy listening so you don't miss any new episodes when they go live. Thank you so much for joining me, Emma.
Thanks for having me on.
And just for context, where are you joining us from during the wild times of COVID?
We are just by Heathrow, so kind of not central London. Still within the outskirts of London, but more near Heathrow Airport.
Love it, amazing. So let's kick off with your rapid fires. A country where you think Killing Kittens would be most impactful?
Asia. But I think some. I mean, maybe. Although I don't think we'll go there. Maybe Japan or somewhere where it's still very much men in control.
The kinkiest thing you've heard whilst at a Killing Kittens party?
Oh, to be honest, it's been 15 years of kinky noises being heard. So it's maybe when these two girls had strap-ons and were just sort of going for it with each other.
Had a great time. A sex toy you wish existed?
Probably a hands-free dildo which gets the clitoral suck and the G-spot at the same time.
I feel like we're opening up this conversation in the exact fashion. So as much as I love to talk about all things sex, I've really brought you on here today to really broach the subjects of sex and exploration, because I think that the lack of open discourse about it is sometimes harming individuals, couples, and the broader society. Sex, desire, and exploration is a topic that I feel carries so much baggage and can be so beneficial and yet so harmful in the way that sometimes we speak about it. And I wanted to really dive into what Killing Kittens offers to enable people to overcome, the shame, the guilt, or the inhibitions that we do have around sex and exploration. Also, I'm really curious to talk about desires, fetishes, non-monogamy with yourself, which I feel is, the right woman to speak on such topics.
I'm comfortable with that.
So when I asked my friends if they've heard of Killing Kittens, it was kind of like a 50-50. And so for those who may not know what we're talking about, could you share a bit of a description?
It is it's a community, online and offline, which is a safe space for what started as specifically aimed at women is now sort of women, couples and men to explore their sexuality without being judged. in a safe environment, and whether that's offline or online. So what started as very much events and parties with a small online community has now turned into, it's now flipped. So actually we're considered a tech business because we've got the whole big social network platform, which is the majority and core of the business now, with the events on the top and different workshops, sex ed workshops. So it's just a complete world of sex positive, exploring your sexuality, exploring the sex within your relationships, exploring when you're single, but with very much women at the core and women driving it. So that's it in a nutshell.
Do you have like an ultimate goal that you're hoping or seeking to achieve?
We just launched our new platform last week, which is the world's first adult social network platform. So our goal is to, rival the big social network platforms out there and have it as, that's the one where you go to have your adult life. So, you've got Instagram, some more pics and PC, and you've got kids on there, and you've got Facebook, which is very family orientated, and LinkedIn, which is very business. And then we'd like the Killing Kittens platform to be where you ask the sex questions, where you put the pictures in your lingerie, where you talk about going to a the art of giving blowjob workshops, and just have the conversation around sex on there.
And people can just download that as a normal app for those who, ears.
So at the moment, you just go onto killingkittens.com and it's there, and it's a very mobile friendly site. And then our app is actually launching on iOS next Thursday, and then the Android version a couple of weeks later. So it's all interconnected, and there's a big dating element as well. So I think Bumble meets Facebook with the whole educational hub attached to it as well.
Look, I'm definitely going to be downloading that, without a doubt. But often when we think about sex parties or even orgies, we kind of sometimes correlate that between what we're seeing in porn or movies. And so by and large, in those, I feel most of the time women are being degraded. And you've shared how Killing Kittens is a platform for women. So how is it different?
So it's the women are very much in control. So from day one, we've never let single men in. Every man has to be accompanied by a woman, and then the main big rule that goes across the parties, but also goes across the online side, is that men can't initiate the chat. They can't approach women they don't know. They have to wait for the woman to make the first move. And when you've got that happening, it just flips it on its head. So even though there's a lot of sex that goes on, when it's very female led, you don't get that. You don't get the kind of big testosterone factor of men like you do in porn, throwing women around and bending them over a table, and, kind of the sort of that side of things. It's a different setup, and it's a different, I think sex for women is much more, it's 1,000 shades of different going on. And it's not, sex, when you say sex, it's such a patriarchal man thing. It's it conjures up. If you say to most people, what is sex, it's like it's a penis and a vagina, and the end point is the man coming. It's kind of this ingrained messaging that we've had as women since we were tiny. It's very difficult to get that out because it's an automated thing within us. So for us, with women at the core, it's not that, it's everything else. So you get a lot of girl on girl, you get a lot of just soft stuff, you get a lot of just kissing, and it's just, and there is sex, probably, full on sex at the end of it, but sometimes, but it's not just that end point. Very black and white.
Oh, absolutely. Being married to a woman, one of the most common questions we get asked is like, but is it really sex? And so I always throw back and think, okay, so if a penis enters the vagina and comes straight back out, is that sex? And it's like, where is the point line of satisfaction that it's like, open up your mind? And then as I have had friends who have, gone on to explore and had sex with women, they're like, oh, I kind of get it now. Like, I understand what you're always trying to say, that you can't exactly define it, in regards to like, it has to be a penis or a...
But that's the thing, that's what's so sad. And that's our big goal as well, is to globally open up the conversation around sex and realize that sex isn't just that. Isn't just penis and vagina. Sex is so much. In between, from fetish and kink and massage and just, and just play and foreplay. It's like, there's a whole world that is sex without that, black and white endpoint.
Do you think we've become more or less sexually active or open? You know, this idea of like, I don't think it predates us.
Yeah, I think it's always been there. I don't think we've become more sexually active. I think we've become more open. And I think because sexuality now is more open and it's more on a spectrum, constantly evolving. It's not so black and white, you're either straight or you're gay. It's, you know, there's non-binary, there's this gender fluidity that has come up in the last few years and all around sex. So it just means you don't have to define yourself. You don't, you know, and actually women are on the spectrum of sexuality, so we're right in the middle. So it's natural for women to one day maybe fancy a guy and then the next day fancy a woman. It's just we fancy humans, and we can be turned on by men and women.
See, I'm curious as to what makes you say that, or I guess the definitive research you may have, because I've always thought that, you know, there is definitely like heterosexual, there's definitely homosexual, but I do think most of the world kind of coexists between that space. And if we had less labels...
Yeah, there are both, you know, there are, you know, hard ends of both. But the thing with women, if you're at the Kinsey Institute and they've got this 1 to 7 scale of sexuality, and men actually they found were more 1 or 7. And most women, the majority of women, overwhelmingly, were kind of 3, 4, 5.
Really?
So it just that's why we're more tactile, we're more touchy feely. We, you know, we'll check out whether you say you're completely straight as a woman, you will still check out women faster than a man will check them out. You know what I mean? We're always checking out other women around us and what they look like, and you know, all nice hair, and you know, we want that body, and it's, you might not see it as being overtly sexual, but it's in us to appreciate other women's what's going on. So
their beauty.
Yeah.
What do you think it is about sex that makes us either so happy when we're, you know, getting that fulfillment and that satisfaction, and also so sad when we just aren't?
I think it's psychology. I think because especially for women, our biggest sex organ is the brain. So if that's not being, you know, I say to guys who are like, well, you know, they're not putting out, and I'm like, well, are you actually making an effort to make them feel respected and wanted? And especially, you know, if you're mums or you're working, or you got to get that bit of the brain. And I think if you're not being, it's the same with everything in life. If you're frustrated and feel like you're not being listened to or fulfilled, then you are, you know, it's gonna go, well, I'm not getting the right sex, or you know. And a lot of people, I think also what is becoming more open, I think I've seen it a lot in lockdown as well, because couples are being forced to actually communicate because they can't escape. And it's boring, so they're now having conversations of, actually, I've thought about this in our sex lives. I've always wondered what it would be like to try that. We've seen a whole load of new members coming into our site who all say, couples, that they would never have come in before, but it's made them realize that actually they haven't been communicating. They haven't actually been really open about the thoughts or fantasies that they've had. And they might have been having them for like 10 years and they just never communicated. So it's sort of, it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? And to us, it's sort of, we want to normalize that conversation, because you're open to kind of tell each other that you've read about a new diet plan and you want to try this new diet, or you want to try this new workout, that you have no problem, people have no problem communicating that with each other. But trying to communicate that you want to try a new position or a new like oral sex technique, or try a bit of rope kink or something, it suddenly becomes really awkward, and it's just more that you're worried you're going to be judged. And no, the communication piece is something I definitely want to unpack. And now that we're talking about kinks and fetishes, for those who may not know the difference, could you describe the two, or even if there is a difference? To be honest, there's not a huge difference. It's an entire spectrum, and people label, but different people label things differently. It's, you know, personally, kinks and fetishes are the same, really. If you've got a bit of a, you know, a kink wanting toe sucking, or you like being tied up, or, you know, everyone's got something, and whether you call it a fetish or a kink, it's the same.
You know, the example you were referencing earlier, and I do find it the same when people talk about their fetishes, in the sense that I could say, hey, I don't like oysters, Or you could tell me you like oysters and I could be like, I don't like it, but you're not a weirdo. But all of a sudden when people start really sharing their fetishes and kinks, if you don't, or it's not your appetite, people really label you and they're like, that's weird, that's gross, that's odd, as opposed to like, we're just different. We just coexist in different kind of sexual spectrums of what we're after.
And that to me is the big thing. The big thing we're driving is that conversation that, you know, your sexuality controls you and drives you more than anything else in the world, more than religion, more than politics. It is our core. It's what makes us who we are. Therefore, why is it so weird and awkward? And why do we worry? So I mean, well, obviously religion and society have made it. Have made it like that. But when you put them away and just get down to, well, why is it awkward when it's the most natural? We're animals, so it shouldn't be.
You know, I really agree with you in that, in terms of like, I know with me, with my sex, my sexuality, when I am participating in it and having it, it definitely is driving myself. But, you know, for those who perhaps shun that part of themselves, could you explain a bit more for how they might be able to really tap into that? So then they could actually be like, okay, cool, I understand what she means by this.
Yeah, I think on that, it's being able to separate and it's a hard thing to do because a lot of it is subliminal, you know, in our unconscious minds, messaging that when you repeatedly have been told something, like, you know, like when you're little, some people get told that, you know, masturbating is dirty and it's filthy and you won't go to heaven, and, you know, it kind of, that messaging is in and in and in. So you then grow up and you, every time, and you don't play with it, or you do, but you just feel dirty afterwards and you feel this guilt and this shame, and you don't really know you don't really look at where that's coming from. But when you look at it, you realize that it's the messaging that you constantly had when you're little, and it dictates how you then behave as an adult and your thought process. So it's basically having this internal conversation in your head is, well, why do I think it's shameful? Why do I think it's dirty? Why do I think bringing up oral sex, or I'd quite like to be tied up and, you know, blindfolded? Why do I think there's something wrong with that? And just have a debate.
Do you think it's more of an inner conversation that you should have, you know, with yourself in the mirror, or do you think it's also something that we should all be talking about within our friendship circle?
And that, I think it needs to be a social conversation. It needs to be talking about, and that's the thing, and that's part of the big part of Killing Kittens, is being able to have those conversations with like-minded people and open up, going, this is what I've been thinking about. And the more you speak about it, the more you realize that you're not weird. It's not dirty. So the more you start questioning, you know, as in where those messages are coming from, and then the more you're able to actually ask for what you want. And the minute you ask once, so as soon as you turn the tap on and you jump, you take the leap off the cliff into opening your mouth and asking, then you've done it once, and you can just keep, you know, you'll keep doing it.
Absolutely. Look, something my friends know that I constantly grapple with is why they aren't telling me all the details of their sex life. I think my wife is somewhat grateful that I'm starting to learn that perhaps I shouldn't share all of ours. But I am always perplexed. Why aren't we talking about sex, or why is it such a taboo and secretive topic? Because we're all doing it. We can all be giving each other pointers, tips, sharing stories. And yet it seems to be this sacred idea that everyone thinks we're meant to keep between our partners. And so why do you think there is such a secrecy? Do you think it is just because of those ingrained stories that we've been told as we're growing up?
I think it's ingrained messages. I think, you know, we've lived in a very patriarchal, controlling society. You know, we're in a man's world built by men for men. That's, you know, we're kind of coming out of it and rebuilding. And that combined with religion, again, on squashing women, that's always been there, and, you know, that intimidated by women. And you look back through everything, Joan of Arc, the history of any witch, burning witches at the stake, any woman with an opinion, you know, through history has, you know, it's only I was looking at the 19th century of I saw this list last week of reasons why women were put in institutions, and it was like having an opinion. And it was a really funny list, which now, you know, I was like, well, 90% of them I would have ended up in an institution.
Yeah, for being hysterical.
For being hysterical, exactly. And the whole hysteria, the word and stuff. That's why vibrators were invented, you know, weren't they? Was to control hysterical women by giving, you know, they may give them an orgasm and they suddenly became normal human beings again. It's sort of, when you look at it, it's so ridiculous. when you, and that messaging, it's ingrained in us, and that's why it is so important to chat about it. Like I said, you would tell your friends about this new fitness setup you've discovered, or a new diet you've gone on, and you'd go into great detail about it. You know, you really would, and the exact weights you used, if it was like a weight training program, and tell all about it. And then you'd say, you know, we're seeing effects and the results, and I'm feeling so much better about myself. And so why wouldn't you share, oh, we're trying, you know, this technique, we're doing this workshop on like spanking, and he's been trying it and I've been trying it, and it works really well, and it's made me feel like this. It just, do you know, that's the thing, it's just another part of what we do. Yes, you don't have to go into great detail about the noises each other makes, but it's kind of, that's the sort of stuff you chat with friends over. So why not do it about sex as well?
I also think there's a lot of slut shaming that kind of comes along with it. And I mean, even the words that are used for women, it's kind of slut, loose, easy, dirty, whore, skank. And yet if you look at, for any man, it's, oh, he's just such a player. And it's like,
or they're a legend.
Yeah. And I tend to find that women decrease their number of how many people they've slept with, but men always want to bolster up themselves. And it's even that, like, a man can go out and do such things, but a woman must be, you know, still well behaved. But if you give a shit blowjob, my God, am I going to tell my mates about you?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the bit. It's sort of, I don't know. It's just, again, it's sort of lads on it. But I don't. I always say to girls, you know, when they go, oh, he slept with loads of people and he slept with this, and I'm like, why do you? I don't know. I've never asked a boyfriend how many women he slept with. I could not give a shit. It would worry me more if I found out that I was like the second person that slept with, and we were in our 30s. You know, it's sort of, my husband was a complete womanizing shit sportsman before I met him, and I have no idea how many women he slept with, but I'm quite glad he got it all out of his system. It just, that mentality as well. I never get why women are worried about, you know, he slept with all these people, and men, you know, I still get guy friends going, I've met an amazing girl, she's not girlfriend material, and it's like, why? Well, because she slept with loads of men, and you're like, and so what?
I often find that it's also a comparison game. Everyone's still, and you know, no matter how many people you sleep with or how many people your partner has, you still always have that question, am I the best? Like, people still want that answer, as if like they've come along this whole journey and then they met you, like this peak and this pinnacle.
But that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like, she's really good in bed, or he's really good in bed. But it's like, well, is he? Is he good? Is he bad? Is she good or bad? Or are you just not compatible? That's the thing. I don't think anyone is really good in bed or really bad in bed. It's if you're with the right person and you click and you communicate what you want, you're going to have good sex. In that moment, it will be a good experience. If you're not communicating, if you're putting up with stuff as a woman, you kind of lie, and you might be a bit rigid because he's just sort of pulling your nipples a bit too hard or using your clitoris like a doorbell, then, you know, you're not going to enjoy it. You're not going to be moving around and acting really comfortable. So he might turn around and go, it was a shit shag. You know, it's sort of, I personally don't think there is such thing as bad sex or good sex. And if there is, then that's down to you for not telling them what you want or communicating what you want, and
that's it too, right? And like I've had friends share with me how if they've ever been too forthright in bed, and this is a heterosexual couple, that if they've ever been too forthright in bed, then all of a sudden he doesn't like the feedback, and he takes it on board as a discouraging thing, as opposed to like, hey, my body works different. Like, you know, every woman I sleep with, I still get nervous because you think, oh, you're going to react and respond differently. Like, no one is the same, and even like the same on any given day.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw on that as well. It can, because it is so personal, because everyone's nervous in the sack, you know, not wanting to, you want to please your other half and the person you're in bed with. But I would say don't go aggressively negative and critical. Just rather than going, that really hurts, don't do that. Move the hand and say, I'd really like it if you did this here or that there. So you're not, rather than dissing, that critical, really criticizing, which will make someone feel shit. That's the same in everything in life, whether it's work. If you launch straight into full-on criticizing, then you've instantly got someone's back out and making them feel shit about themselves. So isn't it better to, rather than go full critical, just say, look, that's okay, but this would work better. It would work much better if I'd like it if you tried this, or just move the hands, move the fingers. Rather than being, to the face, that fucking hurts. Yeah,
I do think there is a sexual confidence that if people perhaps lent on a little more within themselves, that the communication would be a lot easier. But everyone seems to get so worried, which, again, I'm sure it just comes from time, experience, just kind of wanting better sex and kind of diving into that for themselves. I polled my friends before this interview because I wanted to know, who'd actually want to go to a sex party. And a lot of people said, yeah, I would, but I'm also worried about being seen or recognized, either on the app or at a party. And so it is a space for like-minded people. But why do you think we still have this fear and worry about being recognized as if it's like a naughty thing?
But that, again, is you've got to ask the questions, why? Why are you worried? Why does it matter? Why does it matter if people know you're exploring your sexuality or exploring your sex life? Why does it matter? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all society's judgments.
Exactly. Why does it matter? Oh, because I don't want friends judging me. Well, that's down to you. Why don't you want people to judge? Why does it really matter? And asking those questions, does it really matter? Is anyone being hurt? What am I doing wrong? That's the thing. What am I doing wrong? And the answer is you're not doing anything wrong. So, yeah, you've just got, it's backing yourself and just owning it, and owning you're a sexual adult who's completely entitled to have a sex life and learn new things when it comes to your sexuality and that sex life. So fuck them all. Fuck the judgment.
Honestly, I feel like this is great life advice that would serve people in any area of their life. Like, if this is what this person's thinking of you and you don't mind and it doesn't matter, then fuck them.
Yeah, I said that to someone yesterday. Like, they're talking about this, and I'm like, well, hey, do you like this person? They're like, no. I'm like, well, does it matter? That's the thing. It's good. I call it, and I think we've been going 15 years, and I've had a lot. It took me a few years to do it. A lot of abuse, a lot of trolling, and I have what I call my invisible force field. That's just sort of there, and someone could just be sat right in front of me and being completely abusive, but it just won't register, because I'm like, it's their insecurities, it's their issues, it's their headspace. I'm not doing anything wrong, and do I really give two shits what this person thinks about me or thinks what I'm doing is wrong? I don't care.
Yeah, in my research, I did see that and heard you share those stories. And I imagine that through having to go all of this, you did have to just have that day when you were like, you know what, I can't ever worry what someone else is going to think, because what you do will never be like largely accepted by society as a whole.
You don't have control of it. You don't have control of you. I have this thing, I can control the things I can control, and other people's opinions I'm never going to be able to control, and you can't change it. And I'm not going to waste my energy, because that's just exhausting. Trying to change people's minds. You just got to go for it and back yourself and in what you believe and what you stand for.
So after the question to my friends of, hey, would you go to a party? Their next question was, could you make sure she walks us through what we could expect at a party?
Yeah. So the most of the different venues, but it's kind of the same format. So we'll always have like a champagne and often like an oyster reception. So we have like an oyster shocker, and it's almost mass. And we'll often have like performers, so cabaret, burlesque sort of acts. And it's sort of, I just say, like, most of the venues we use like private house parties, and when we do them in Sydney, they're private houses. And it's like basically a private party where the wheels come off. So you often will have DJs, always music and the entertainment, and then, but it's only really if you wander up into like the bedrooms or the outside rooms that you work the short candle that you might see naked people and sex going on. If you stay around the bar area, it's just like being in a private party, and you just chat to everyone, and it's so often like cocktail dress or black tie, and the masks masks have to stay on in the reception, and then it's up to you whether you take the mask off for the rest of the night, and that's it. And then you might walk into one room, there might be 20 people, and there sometimes you get couples that just they just want to keep to themselves. They'll get naked and have sex, but it'll just be with each other in like a corner of the room or on the bed, or you'll get groups of girls coming together who will just like, they just love dancing around in their lingerie. That's enough for them to feel empowered and liberated. They don't get involved in sort of sex. Other girls will. You get some couples that have that kind of classic threesome idea, or the woman in the couple is bisexual, bi-curious. So it's a complete whole different levels of who's doing what and why, and a lot of other people keep their clothes on and they just like the atmosphere and they like the people and the party. So at the end of the day, I would say, it's a really good party where the byproduct, it can be sex, rather than it being, it's a party where you have to have sex and it's a sex party.
Yeah, I think a lot of the assumption, obviously from researching it, I knew there was a difference, but I think a lot of people's assumption was like, oh, if I go, I must have sex. And I was like, no, that's not it. You never have to have sex in life at all, ever, if you don't want to.
That's a good, the fact that it's very black and white, where it's sex going on, it's a sex party. Again, that's it's that very male, black and white, it's sex. And it's always from day one been more of that female mindset of 1,000 shades of sex going on. And I've never seen it as, right, it has got to be sex. It's like, we're creating this space and this environment and this community. And if people want to have sex, they can have sex. But there's no expectation to have it. It just, you set the scene, and actually because people feel comfortable and because it's the women very much in control and they feel empowered and liberated, then in that state of mind, they're more likely to, want to have sex.
Do you find that people actually lose their inhibitions or perhaps perform more a little more because they have the masks for anonymity?
Yeah, massively. There is that element, even though it's still blatantly obvious who everyone is. I think you put a mask on and it feels like you've got this shield, and that you are hiding behind it. And you can be your Oscar Wilde, I can't remember his quote, had an amazing quote about when the minute you put a mask on, you can be yourself. Because you feel like you've got a wall between you and the other people. And they're not going to know who you are. So you then are naturally more yourself.
I love that quote. I'm definitely going to find out the exact wording of that.
Find it. It's a good one.
As porn has become more widely accessible, have you found that attendees' expectations or requests become a little more niche or a little more, free?
No, because I think, again, because it's for women, and I think a big part of porn is very male. It's very male-led. It's, it's unrealistic. And I think people just want real sex. And that's the thing. It's real social sex. And there's a big difference between sex, porn films where it's not real. Or teenage boys need to be told it's not real. It's not real. The sounds aren't real. If you watch porn films, the women always seem to come through penetrative sex. And actually, I think only about 17% of women actually orgasm that way. So that's not real. It's just a performance, really. It's like the difference between reading non-fiction and fiction, or reading or watching a film or a documentary. It's, you watch a film and it's fictional films, or you can watch a documentary and it's real life. And the thing is, Killing Kittens is real life. It's real life, real couples, real love. So you can't make that up. Really.
Yeah, I do love the fact of how most women actually don't come from penetrative sex. And it's like we have conversations with our friends so often and they'll talk about sex and then they'll be like, yeah, but I haven't orgasmed in quite some time, etc. And then I just think, but what about everything else? Like there is, like you've shared, so many shades of grey here. Yeah. Like why are you not trying or experimenting?
Or telling him that, that's the thing. I think women just, especially in straight women and straight relationships, have put up with so much. Yeah. But part of that is now it is on us to communicate.
Yeah, look, my wife can definitely be cheeky, and when our friends ask, what is female sex, she says, when both of you come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Way better than straight.
Yeah. So I did see through your Instagram the hashtag Kitten and Proud. Has the association of empowerment with sex helped people to be more open and comfortable with it? The more that they've come to
massively.
parties.
And actually, I noticed this morning. Actually, they've just put our social media lot put out a big story on the Kitten and Proud. So if you look at it today, it's all about being kitten and proud and the reasons. And we've asked members and they've just messaged just before this actually saying got loads of people coming in. So what it means to be a kitten, and owning it. And what we found actually in the last few years actually is more and more, especially women, are comfortable and confident to own it and own being a Killing Kittens member, and they will put it on social media. We did a video, I don't know if you saw it last week, I think it's on Twitter as well. It was more one of those kind of TikTok videos, although we're not allowed on TikTok, but the way it got edited. And it was a whole load of female members doing that whole where they start in normal clothes and then they throw pants at the screen and suddenly they're in lingerie, and then they throw pants and then it's another girl in normal clothes and then they're in lingerie. There's a whole video of about 20 different girl members all doing it, all quite happy to have it all out on social media. So there's more and more of that happening, and that's why we've got the Kitten and Proud, which is as it should be, and they're doing it for themselves. And that's why there's there's a certain type of feminist who just thinks that to be respected and equal, women need to keep their clothes on, and go, well, and they bring out the whole, if there's a photo of a woman in their underwear, then it's objectifying women and sexualizing them. And it's like, it's not actually. And these girls are doing it for themselves because they're owning it. It's the exact opposite. They're not doing it for men or to be sexually objectified. If it's that perception, if the people looking at it in their head are perceiving it as sexual, then that's down to that person. It's the difference between intent and perception. So if the intent is to empower yourselves, then that's not objectifying women. It's how it then gets perceived.
Yeah.
That opinion.
I feel like society just, although we're becoming so aware of all these things of what we're doing to women, we just still keep perpetuating that idea. And whether it is religion, which is definitely always a predominant force in regards to any of these discussions, it's an unfortunate thing because I think so often people are repressing who they are and themselves and their desires and wants, and then they get to this point in their life and all of a sudden they think, wow, fuck, I waited too long.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing we joke, because I've got some friends, like I'm 42, and I've got friends who are in the same boat, like married, and they've got a couple of kids, and they're like, now, because they're completely owning it, they're quite happy being naked, and they're just like, fuck, I wish we were like this in our 20s when we were single and could go out. But in our 20s, because we are that Gen X, what it is, it would very much was, you were judged. So that's partly why I launched Killing Kittens, because it was just that whole slut shaming, everything around you. And just even if you had a one night stand, it was the guilt you had in you of being a slut. Whereas now they don't have that. The 20-year-olds now are like on a different level.
Yeah, absolutely. I was even saying, like, I mean, I'm only in my 30s, and I was in conversation with a 13-year-old the other day, and we were talking about how if someone is like homosexual at school, and she's like, oh yeah, of course. And I was like, wait, what? I was like, that is not, of course, that is not how it was for me even 15 years ago. What are you talking about? Exactly.
And trans, and that's the thing, there's this big movement, and I know about a few kids who exactly are trans, or they'll be non-binary, or it's all out there and open.
So navigating non-monogamy and jealousy that ensues, I feel, which comes from the idea of parties like this, because my view is that people do want to be having more sex with more people than they can or are willing to talk about. Would you agree with that from what you've seen of people coming to these parties or on your online?
Yeah, I think a lot of, but again, some of the most secure couples that I know are some of the Killing Kittens couples, and yeah, they will have sex with other people, but they'll do it together or in aware of each other, and that's what they're doing. So they have this agreement, and they're able to see the difference between emotional sex and it's just sex, and that's the bit. So a lot of people are like, I couldn't possibly have sex with anyone else, and it's being able to take the emotional attachment away from it. And there are more and more couples as well going, actually, a lot of the time their partner can't tick every box. So what do you do if you have a perfect marriage well, there's no such thing as perfect marriage, but like, you know, you're really happy in most of your, in your entire relationship, and actually you have good sex. But for example, the woman might be really into sort of more BDSM and the man has no interest whatsoever. Do you end a marriage because that box, which is a big drive, because as I said before, that sexual drive, your sexuality drives you, so it's a big part of frustration in the woman? Or do you have an open conversation and just the man goes, go and get that bit? I can't give it to you. And it's not, and it lets her or him tick that box, that scratch. There's no frustration there, but the rest of your relationship is great. So it's that flexibility, and everything's becoming more flexible. Work is more flexible, and you know, so sexuality and sex life is more flexible, and in relationships, but again, it comes down to communication and working out why you don't want, whether it's your issues or their issues on the security front. And it's the same with jealousy. It's sort of actually being able to, if you're feeling jealous, rather than kick off straight away, to actually process it, think about it in your head. Why am I feeling jealous? And a lot of the time, it'll be something going on with you, and you're not feeling secure about life in general. You're having a bit of a shit day, feeling a bit fat, a bit bloated, a bit, you know, so it's your issue, and you can't, and you're projecting. So don't go off on one and be psycho on your other half who's doing nothing wrong. So I think it's being able to, on jealousy, process those feelings. Obviously, if he's gone off and you know in your gut there's something not right, then you deal with it. But generally, jealousy is actually comes down to stuff going on in you that's making you feel jealous.
I also find that people internalize their partner's desires as a rejection of themselves. And this idea of like, if we're together and you want to go do something, all of a sudden, oh, why aren't I enough? As opposed to, just like you've said, there's just something you want to do over here, trying this, and then you still want to come back to, you know, our relationship at our home.
Exactly. It's like your other half. It's, you know, like my hubby, it's sort of, it would be like me getting jealous because he's going off drinks with the guys, and he's like, and I'm like, well, why doesn't he want to have a drink with me? It's just stupid. It's because he's going off with boys. And he's always going off golf. Why doesn't he want to play golf with me? I'm like, well, I don't want to play golf. So, you know, it's sort of, you can have those jealous feelings, and then you can realise how ridiculous, and also you can turn it on your head and just go, well, he's doing that, and I'm allowed to go and do that.
Yeah, look, jealousy is also something that people brought up with me about this idea. And I literally would have, because I've got a lot of married friends, and I'll ask them individually, and both of them will say to me, I absolutely would love to go out and try such a thing, but either A, I don't think they could handle it, or B, I wouldn't want to watch them with someone else. And I just think there is no communication here. And also you're creating an idea of what you don't think you'll like, and then it happens and you're actually okay with it, but you're not giving it.
Yeah, and I find that with loads of guys, like, shh, as in can't discuss it with the wife. And then I'll speak to the wives who are totally cool, and they're like, you know, we'd go and stuff. And you have to go, the hubbies, don't put it on, you know, it's slightly controlling, you know, kind of dictating what, and actually when most women are all over it. But also it's that, you don't have to, and I say to first timers or people just interested, just come along, see it as a party, have an agreement that you're going to keep your clothes on, and just see what it's about, and come and have a couple of drinks, and at any point you can leave. So have that as the first thing. Just go, right, let's go and have a funny night out, have a few drinks, let's go, stick together, keep our clothes on, and just watch. Let's just go and be voyeurs for the night.
Do you think we're becoming complacent in our relationships by accepting this idea that monogamy is the only way forward?
I think it's dangerous. Again, it's that very rigid, non-flexible way. And do you know what? Monogamy is great for. It is great. There's no right or wrong. It's great for so many different people, as long as I said you are open and you're honest and you're communicating. But a lot of people in monogamous relationships are frustrated in a certain part of their lives, and you just think you've got one life on that front. And again, you know, monogamy isn't a natural animal state. It was created again by religion. Is how, and the patriarchal society, it's like the man will own the woman. It's their, you know, it's their position. It's well, meanwhile, they can go off and shag whoever they want whilst being married to their position. It's when you look back at where monogamy has come from, it really isn't a natural state within us animals. So you can kind of understand why it's now coming out and coming to surface, and because society is like allowing this flexible sexual existence, and women have more power and we have more independence and we're more financially independent, so we don't need to rely on a man to support us. It gives us more freedom to go, well, if we're not happy, we're gone. If you're not making me happy, I'm out. So yeah.
And for those who, I guess, are listening to this and they are in those relationships and they're thinking, hey, actually, how can I open up the conversation? Like, do you have any pointers that you give people?
Do you know what? There's just fun. It's really awkward opening up conversations sometimes, but you could go, do you know what? You're at home, get a bottle of wine out and just chat and just say, should we just do something fun and watch some porn? And I'll pick a category, you pick a category, and let's just watch and comment, and while having some drinks. And by doing that, you're not having a direct conversation with each other, but you can watch it and go, oh my God, that looks painful, that. And by doing that, the minute you open that conversation up, it's very natural to go, well, that looks quite fun. Or we could, you know, let's try it. Yeah, or fuck it, tie me up. You know what I mean? It becomes more of a spontaneous thing, reacting to just watching. So that you can suggest that let's just watch something together, and I'll pick a category, you pick a category. Let's just have some fun.
Because we keep referencing Tie Me Up, yesterday I actually discovered that the origins of the Wonder Woman comics actually come and have a lot of BDSM themes that run through them because of the creator's own polyamorous relationship.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and that's why she has the chain. It's a brilliant movie called Professor Marston and the Wonder Women, and it's the origins of how Wonder Woman came about. Outstanding film, but it also, when you watch it and then the way they do the ropes and the tying, it really reframes it, and it also goes into submission and dominance and those interplays. And I think people to watch that, and it's very beautiful, and how it touches on the idea of you can love and share an experience with more than one without it being this very, like, again, as we've mentioned, like sex. It's like there's a lot of connection.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's a lot of the polyamorous stuff isn't necessarily sex. It is that it's getting the different things from different people, but you get that in real life. And I always say that, take sex aside, so you know, a lot of women, especially women more than men, have this expectation that their other half has to tick every box, but also that friends have to tick every box. And I'm like, no, you have. Like, I have. The older I've got, the more I have so many different people for different things. If I want an intelligent conversation about politics, like there's, you know, or religious debate, or, you know, the ones you can go into deep conversation about sex. I've got friends across the entire spectrum, but I don't expect them all to tick every single box. In the same way, I don't expect my husband to tick most of those boxes. You know what I mean? It's like, and there's that. People need to realize that one person is not going to tick every single box, and if you're expecting that, then you are going to be frustrated. Anyone who's listened to my podcast for long enough always hears me talk about Esther Perel, and she often references that, and how we used to be, you know, raised by a village, and we used to live within a real community-based society, whereas now we think one person should just have everything that makes us happy, and it's like, that's never going to happen. So seek to find the other people in your life which might satisfy those needs. Yeah, and it's true, because people often, you know, I often get asked, because I've got 3 kids under 6 and a couple of businesses, and I've never stopped working, and, you know, I've never taken maternity leave, and people are like, well, how do you do it? How do you do it all? And I'm like, because I have teams in every aspect of my life. I have amazing teams, and it's exactly that. I have a village around me, for whether that's a team at work, whether that's a childcare. I have a lot of people who can look after my kids, and that's the thing. It's a village that's raising them, and it's a village, team-wise, and my friends as well. So it's the only way I can do it is having villages in all aspects of my life, and I don't try and do anything on my own. And then you can do it.
I am curious, being a mother and having young children, and I guess just the business and industry that you're in, either A, do you have those conversations with them, although I don't know how one would, but, or, do you have that moment where you go, hey, when they hit this age, I'm going to really have to explain what I do?
Do you know what? I think it's as it comes up. And the 5-year-old, he started school last September, so he's now learning to read. And he, a few months ago, could read a sticker on my laptop and said, "Why is your business called Killing Kittens?" And so we didn't really, luckily it was Swedge because his 2 sisters jumped on him, so we didn't have to have that. But it's things like, he asked me in lockdown, he asked me what my 3-year-old's willy was. What's Lily's willy called? And I just went to vagina. So I'm not going to give it some stupid name because that's part of the problem. I said it's vagina, and then didn't really think about it. He was like, And then they were in a car about a month later messing around about animals going to eat your leg, animals going to eat, your tiger's going to eat this. And he said, and the tiger's going to eat your vagina, Lily. And which my husband just nearly crashed. And it's kept, and that's the thing, is she calls it gina. But it's, you have the conversations as they come up. And last summer I took them to Pride. We did a big Pride picnic, and I said to my husband, look, it's a picnic in the park, so I don't see why we can't, there's nothing that makes me feel awkward taking the kids. And explaining, he was then 4, the oldest was then 4, and explaining, he said, what's Pride? And I said, I said, it's when men can dress up as women and women can dress up as men, and you can be whoever you want to be. And that was enough. And then I heard him telling his mates that we were going to Pride picnic, and he was like, I can wear a dress and Lily can wear trousers. And I just thought that's enough, and it's starting the conversation. So it's there's no kind of set time of when I'm going to have chat. It's as it comes up, you then address it, and some of the shit they come out with, you know what I mean? You've got no time to plan. You don't know what's going to come out of their mouth, or the questions. He asked me last week about how did a baby get in my tummy, and so you have to think about, that. So you just do it. I think not having the conversations in whatever form is the problem, and shrugging it off, because you then get kids who have no idea.
Absolutely. And I often will speak to friends, and they'll be like, "Oh, my parents wouldn't talk about sex." But I was like, "Oh no, I had being around my mom. It was very much a conversation, or she was naked at times, and so it was just normalized. So there wasn't any kind of anything naughty around it."
Yeah, me too.
Before I ask you my final question, I really want to say I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing all of your, experience and wisdom and tips along the way.
Fun. I need to do more of this chat.
And so I know you've shared a little bit on this, but I just want to know if you had any final thoughts that, what can we as a society continue to gain by speaking more freely about sex and really exploring this core aspect of who we are?
I think, to be honest, it's that realization that it's all interconnected. So if you are sexually confident, then that confidence is going to come out in every other aspect of your life. So if you are, as a woman, if you are communicating in the bedroom and feeling fulfilled in the bedroom and asking for what you want, then you can walk into a boardroom and demand a pay rise. And so, there's this whole kind of thing about women need to have more leadership positions, or, why are they going further up the ladder? And personally, I do think it goes hand in hand, that confidence. And given that, as I said, our sexuality is our core drive, get that confidence and just chatting about that and opening up those conversations, and it's going to travel through to the rest of your lives. So you want more women in the boardroom, get them talking about sex.
Yeah, I definitely think it's also this having the sex and really being satisfied, which again comes from going and asking for how you like it, how you want it. So perfect way to end this. Thank you so much, Emma.
No worries, that was fun.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Modern Women. If these conversations are delivering value to you, it would be so helpful and appreciated if you head to Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you love to listen and rate and review us, as that helps us build this incredible community. And ultimately, that is what this is all about, building this community as big as we can to help as many women as possible. And all of your ratings and reviews truly help with that. This podcast is produced by The Modern Women. And before I go, a shout out to Chunky Love for the original music and Podpace for technical editing.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm a partner at John Lewis. While you're listening to your virtual music, why not check out our new virtual services? You can book personal styling, home design, or nursery advice right from your home, and it's free. Don't forget, when you shop with us online, if you order by 8 p.m, you can collect from 2 p.m. the next day at your nearest John Lewis or Waitrose. And for shopping made simple at home or on the go, download the John Lewis app or tap now to go online.